Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 195th episode. I must apologize. I know there's no way for me to undo this in the previous episode, but I said I would be back Wednesday. Obviously, that was Thursday's episode, or at least I should say obviously. My guess is that I said that on Thursday's episode, and this should probably be one for Friday. In any case, this is the 195th. I'm pretty sure of that, and I'm reasonably certain in terms of the date, but I have recorded a number of these in advance, and it gets a little bit harder to keep track of where I was in the recording. So today, we're going to try and unlock the last room of Hush House. I think we're going to have to wait for the... I think we're probably going to have to wind up waiting for the Oriflamme's auction, but we can get a number of books read while we wait. And I'm trying to think, does it make sense for me to use anybody but Mrs. Kill? And to be honest, I think we still want to use Mrs. Kill for the effort here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to use Crowcross Sands. I think Crowcross Sands is going to be my focus. We're going to use the other elements of the soul to read different items inside of the house. So read books and interact with paintings and so on. Mr. and Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill, the midwife, is tall and gloomy. Mr. Kill, the undertaker, is slight and wry. For 10 years she has drawn villagers into the world, and he has shaped cradles for their departure, but she can also whittle, and he can also paint. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Alright, we're also going to try and make some money, so let's use the whist in this case. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. And then we can get an early start on Crowcross Sands, so we'll employ the Fete there. What has the sea seeded today? And then we can read a book, and we can... In fact, what I should be doing is starting with one of the Newman. So I believe the sun's... The sun's weakness was a moth. Was a moth one. I'm just going to take a second here to look at the notes I did. So yeah, sun's weakness was Grail, Lantern, and Moth. That one's kind of burned into my brain. And then Loopholes was Knock, Moon, and Moth. And the three rules, Heart, Moth, and Scale. I think I'm going to do three rules. And the reason for that is I've just read the sun's weakness a few times, whereas I've really only gotten this one once. And this right doesn't require a language, so I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Now, while we're waiting, we can also get a few other things done, so we can read a given book. I think I feel okay using Trist, so we'll go to the reading room. So for that, we're going to continue on with our Revelations text. We're going left to right, so we did Sunrise Awakenings, now we're on to Prophecies of Glory. And then we will also investigate the various art items. So we did the tapestry before. Again, tempting to check out the busts. We did actually do all of the... Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's take a look at the busts. So, especially given that St. Melisande was recently referenced in As Above, So Below. Investigate this object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. Okay, another Gale. I don't really have any expectations for using the Gale today. Let's get to work. I used up all my Trist already. I'm a moron. Okay, well that's fine. We'll make do. So we can start with the Shears of the Sisterhood. So black iron shears marked with the Sisterhood's triple knot. I can lend my assistants something to help, increasing their abilities. It's going to take me a little while to get that tryst back, but we have the whole day. It's the last room, so I'm not in a particular rush to make any of this happen. Okay, St. Melcinth, visionary philosopher alchemist, most revered and most heterodox of the Isle's abysses. An inscription in Latin reads, "The cross died not, but passed within." Not unlike Fraser Strathcoin. On closer inspection, this is a reliquary bust, which is to say, if I cracked it open, I could retrieve St. Melcinth's actual skull. That would be uncouth. No remains. The eye sees more than the heart knows, Blake. Okay, let's take... I think we're going to move on to Abbot Thomas. I actually don't mind doing it this way, so we'll use the medal for that. Investigate the object. We'll run out of elements of the soul pretty quickly doing this, but we have other ways of getting them. Again, the focus for today really is getting that one room open, so if I wind up with sort of a wait at the end of the day, that's not so bad, because that just moves us a bit closer to the Oriflamme's auction. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. Now, the first thing that we're waiting for really is the memory. We can at least give her the Skinchuck Mead. I know I normally like leaving the consumables at the very end, in case I mess up, but we have a lot of Skinchuck Mead. And again, we have the full day to sort of get ourselves sorted out, so I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. Skinchuck Mead, a murky, sweet-smelling liquid crowded with sediment. Prophecies of Glory, religious and patriotic fables collected or composed by William Gore. This is much more sober in tone than Gore's previous Wainscot histories. Evidently, he became religious in his later years. Each fable describes the coming of the second dawn, when the hours of the sun will be united. But, in Eternity Denied, the Vampire Light and the Feast of Rays, Gore depicts a tainted dawn, which can only be purified by a second division of the sun. He insists repeatedly on the dangers and temptations of a false dawn, which, of course, when we talk about the Great Counterfeit, does raise a couple of questions in terms of what actually will happen there. Again, this is one of the things that's very rewarding about going back to certain works, because we know that we have read every single one of these books before, but we haven't necessarily read all of them when we had the knowledge from some of the Newman or some of the things that we've learned inside of some of the rooms. And so this is one of the reasons why, it's not just about getting memories, but it's actually also getting a bit of an understanding in terms of the world, having had the benefit of reading certain books. And of course, this is true in the real world, right? Like I do own quite a few books, and one of the reasons why I own those books as opposed to get them from libraries or otherwise just sort of read versions that I won't have permanent access to, is that some books are more beneficial as references, things that after you learn other topics, they make sense of. Definitely a lot of stuff that I read in school certainly makes a lot more sense once I've wrestled with the topics and have gained sort of a better understanding. Sometimes those moments of, oh, that's what my teacher was trying to get across. That happens a lot with me. So this is why, even inside of this game, I think there's a lot of value in going back and taking the time to read these things. The Three and the Three, St. Chiavi manuscript. This book describes the operations of the Chancel and the Calyptra, two triads of hours with subtle, far-reaching powers and responsibilities. Of all the extant versions, this one has best survived the interventions of the Calyptra. Certain knowledge cannot be learnt by any entity below the rank of No outside the covenant of the Watchman's Tree. The enforcement of this rule is Calyptra. The three who enforce it are Calyptra also. It is said that Janus elects Calyptra, that the Chancel is the judgment of Janus, and that Janus is the wound in the law. The Watchman's Tree is a compromise. If Calyptra could end it, they would, but the Watchman could end Calyptra. he might. Between their planes conflicting, sparks illuminate the angles of unmade law. 3 rules. The hours are bound by their own edicts, even the chancel and the calyptra. That's why their deepest rules are secret. In certain histories, if we know those deepest rules, we know what even the chancel and the calyptra may not do. So we're going to use that with Mrs. Kill right away. And I think we've earned another book, so let's use Shapt this time. Abbot Thomas. Thomas was one of the first abbots here. At the beginning of the Solar Gothic period, this bust is much more recent, a 19th century bronze. An inscription reads, "Speech, the first sword." The Abbey Chronicles record how Viking mercenaries were quartered at the Abbey. One of their number, Toke, attempted to loot the church and his eyes were pecked out by thorn-beaked crows. He repented, became a sworn brother of the Abbey under the name Thomas, and rose in time to be abbot. But that was not the end of his story. Of course, we know more about what happens to Thomas as we read the books. Alright, on to Sister. Investigate this object. You won't use this or consume it by doing this. And I almost forgot to recover my tris. So this is going to take us 90 seconds, but absolutely worth it. A quick nap in a warm bed with something comforting to drink while the winds chase the clouds and the clouds chase the sun. Now, I don't recall if I had any water left. I do. So serve appropriately, pour out, and I'll take the time to use the core to draw up some more water. Lower the bucket, creaking into the dark. Poured out. Down to the Grushians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So we're still going to be waiting. I'll actually take a minute here just to double check that I'm still on track to where we need to be. So we've taken care of the shears, which is worth 1, and we've got the memory here, which is 5. Okay, so this actually already raises a question for me. So the shears were worth 1. The memory was worth... No, hang on. We don't have the memory. It was the shears and the honey. Okay, so we add the Newman now. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. So just so I can make sure that I'm on track. So shears plus memory are 6, and then the skin shuck mead is another 6, bringing us up to 12. The tryst will bring us 14, and the honey will bring us to 15. And I should just double check that the honey is sustenance. Yes. Double honey, the skin shuck mead and the honey itself. Sea-strewn, salt-snared stuff. Alright, this is definitely one that we're going to want to interact with. Sister, priestess, oracle, queen. A very old image from the Dawn period with a simple inscription. Before the Suppression Bureau, before the Curia of the Isle, before the DeWolfs, before the Church, the Sisters of the Knot were here. Almost 100 generations have lived and died since this thing was shaped. I don't know the inscription, though. I'm actually wondering if you can see that in the art. Anyways, let's take the... you know what, we'll just collect. Something renounced. Who threw this overboard? Memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day, so we'll give her the honey, and then we're really just waiting on the tryst, and we're good to go. The honey's kind of nice to give up, just because it helps me with my ordering, too. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. We're also almost done with the day, but I'm still gonna cycle through. Better now. The Secret Colors. Black Ellie, disgraced Damascene matriarch of the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot, wrote this while fleeing the agents of the Duty. Ellie writes of the secret colors of the sun, the blessed traces of error, weakness in sunlight, balancing principles in its reflection. A deeper account of these secret colors, Ellie reveals, was kept at a shrine to the 3 hours of the chancel at the Grey Rock in the sea, far from the intrigues of the Sisterhood of the Church. It is hidden from the common eye, but can be revealed with the arts of sickle and eclipse. I'm trying to remember if we've picked that one up. I think, yes, I think this is the one that got us the sun's weakness, if I'm not mistaken. So sickle and eclipse was here, and I believe we got that in this spot. Okay, I'm gonna have to start making some harder choices now. We're still gonna go and read. So, letters to my successor, advice from Gervenius van Loren, 11th librarian of Hush House, to the one who will come after him. Sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. Now I'm going to take a minute to... We're going to wait on Mrs. Kill. We don't have that much longer to wait. Yeah, actually, I'm just going to let everything sit here. But there's one thing I want to try with the tryst before I use it with Mrs. Kill. I deserved a little quiet time. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. Abandoned luggage. Alright. I do want to take a look at that. But before I go too much further, let's do something with Moon. Insects and nectars. Yes, okay. What other supermoon do I have? There we go. Interesting question about the 10 moth, though. I'm going to try and add a liquid just to see if that can give us a hand. No. So we already have a memory. We do have the option of a mark, so... Okay, that doesn't do much. The egg would have to be in the... Well... Yeah, I have an egg there. Be a little surprised, but I don't want to rule that out. We only need 10 moon, so that should be sufficient. Interesting. Okay. So 15 nectar and then an unknown 15, which I'm going to need to think about. But again, a little bit of a justification in terms of taking the time to read the various books. Alright, 15 Moth. Secret sorrows may join our strengths. And we still have a core left over, which I can use that to investigate the luggage. And if I'm so inclined, and I think I am, let's restore... You know what? In this case, I'm actually not going to restore. I was thinking of restoring, but it'll take me 90 seconds, and then that kind of brings me close to the end of the day. So I think it's better for me to just settle into the rest of the day's activities. I may just sort of run and restore for... We'll see when the birds and the bells come. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. So I will restore the whist here. The question is if I restore anything else. Letters to my successor. Advice from Gervenius van Loren, 11th librarian of Hush House, to the one who will come after him. Some of the advice is practical. Don't worry about losing the house key. Always close the seaward windows. Make sure you feed the cockatoo. Much more of it is rarefied, specifically about the inks of revelation, and some of it relates to Van Loren's own doom. When I was another, I made a foolish wager with the hooded princes to solve 7 riddles. I had not realized the riddles would be set by me for the one I would become. 6 are resolved. The 7th will be the end of me. It awaits now in the cellar of the jail, where Collars still believes I can keep it confined, but the first riddle told me I would not see the second dawn. So he's talking about something here. Actually, I'm curious what comes out of Letters to My Successor. That is an Inks of Revelation book. Another curious seashell. What comes, neither of us knows yet, but we will. Alright, so on to the last room. Pulsing darkness. If the isle had a heart, we would hear its pulse. Should have taken the time to point out the silhouettes in here, but you'll get to see all the exciting things inside in just a minute. There's a specific thing I'm hoping for here. That wasn't it. Glinting cranial tchotchke. We all of us come to this condition in the end, but not all of us are fortunate enough to be lovingly buffed and fixed carefully to a stylish wooden stand. So I got a news alert. Okay. So now we kind of wait for the... We wait for the rest of the day. So, given that I'm still looking for a specific thing from Crowcross Sands, we are going to set aside... I think at this point maybe setting aside the Fete, the Heart, Health Core, and Tryst. So maybe we'll say these are the last ones for me to use over the course of the day. Better now. Move on to the Focus of Amber, which I thought we had read recently. I guess it's Each Flame is Fuel was the one I was thinking of. In any case, the last of the revelation texts for us. The most secret script of the innermost rites of the deep sect of the deep desert, the birth tongue it is claimed of the mother of ants herself. And you've all been patient enough. Here it is, the last of the rooms, the shrine to Saint Tentretto. The Carapace Cross, the hybrid race who in their many kinds were winged, legged, eyed, bright, dark, scaled, feathered, chitinous. And us? The cross are gone, the cross were always history, but to their children, their enemies, they leave this hushed legacy. So this is, there's all sorts of interesting details in each of the rooms if you look, but we've heard sort of the references to the different types. In fact, I think it's here. So when the gods of stone were swept away, the Carapace Cross who had served them were swept away too. The Seglas kind, the Wermifota kind, the Gladerflog kind, all those wise and mighty ones are gone into nowhere or hiding or us. Here in their fire-warmed waters, away from the justice of sunlight, their legacy quietly thrives. And there was a reference to the Seglas kind, which is it? Might be this one. Oh, here we are. But again, when you know what to look for, these are not just sort of cute little I mean, they are cute little drawings, but there's significance behind this in terms, once you see some descriptions in terms of the gods, the Carapace Cross. And of course, if you played the Dancer Legacy, it deals quite heavily with the Carapace Cross. But we're not just, we don't just have a description, we also have the shrine. So, altar, Saint Tentretto of the Deep Door, who is 4 times winged for the Schemifectra kind, the Glaterflog kind, the Thritage kind, for the kind within. It accepts Moon, Moth, Knock, and Scale. Takes the usual 3, Devotion, Element of the Soul, Memory, notably Blank. I think this is the only shrine that has that. And Cooperative, and then Memory, Liquid, and Cooperative. Actually take a quick minute and just see. So we've got no shrines in the jail. Just trying to make sure. I guess this probably counts as a shrine. Okay, I think that's it for shrines, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so I feel reasonably safe saying that this is the... This is the only one that takes paper. Which makes me wonder... Oh, I don't have a... So I was just looking for something with a sufficient level of scale. So if I put... I don't think I have scale parchment, or scale paper. I don't think that's a thing. Okay. It may be that I need to add a soul there, but... I've always had a suspicion that there was a secret of the house that I never discovered in there, and a little bit like sort of looking at the Rowanarium and the fact that there's a key there. or if you look very carefully, oh, I guess we have to do this in the violet chamber. You get a flash with that. The fact that this accepts paper does make me wonder if there's something that I had missed in the previous run. Anyways, something for me to think about. I know there's at least one other secret of the house that I can access, and I think we'll see what happens tomorrow before I do that. But I have options. All right, let's put that to bed. The focus of Amber, Omar the Blaze spent 7 years manning a lighthouse in Tyre in atonement for the extinguishing of a sacred flame. By the end of his stint, he was so terrified of fire that he could not stand to share a room with a candle. This work was written in partial penance. Omar claims that the hour called Watchman is both a god who was flesh, an hour who was mortal, and also a god from light, an hour who descended from the glory, but adds finally that the Watchman's origin is triple, that, in essence, he is Amber. The Watchman, according to Omar, was once another hour entirely who ascended into the glory to escape efforts by other hours to send him nowhere. It may be that Omar's sense of persecution creeps into the narrative at this point. Certainly, it grows less coherent, and the last part is devoted to attempts to prove that eyes, eggs, and the sun are all in some sense conjunct. And that's it. So this is a bit of a milestone episode for us. I think this is a Friday as well, but we now have the whole house. Now, as we've even seen for the last couple of encounters, there's still quite a bit for us to do that is still related to the basic things that we've been doing with the game already. So merely talking with Eason about the books that he has written, we got 2 lessons out of that. Once we unlocked this room when we were looking for our impulse, now of course I picked that book for a reason, but suddenly something that was written in the Kukurbit Prisoner Records 1927 gave us maybe an indication that this might be, again, I'm not 100% sure. I believe there is a name. I think it's Karkafir. In any case, we have an indication that there might be a connection between these two here. And on top of that, reading this book again did give me a little bit more with insects and nectars. In fact, I may want to try for some of the moon books that I haven't gone all the way with. I may want to try to see if I can do something with the chimeric larva. So all of these things sort of come together, and it's just an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about what I already have available to me before I even try and go a bit further. But we are now at the point where I don't have any more rooms to unlock. I'm not going to be waiting for specific visitors. I'm not going to be trying to get certain memories or certain drinks or something like that to be able to unlock a new room. This is it as far as the house is concerned. And if this was my first time playing, there would be an achievement and I'd pat myself on the back and so on and so forth. But what we are doing now is that we've got this big house, we've got lots of interesting things to look at, but we clearly have more mysteries to handle. So the first thing I'm just going to be doing is a bit like what I've done so far, which is to just kind of go through all of what I already have and maybe see if there's some material that I didn't follow up on as readily as I should have. I'm going to, again, check out the different paintings. We'll maybe see how I feel after that. There's that thing that I'm looking for at Crowcross Sands. We'll see if we can get that. And then I also would like, if I can, I'd sort of like to be able to, if I can, start moving towards what some of the endgame material will be. Now, the thing is about the endgame material is that I want to try and go for one of the legacies or one of the endings that's specific for the artist. And we currently don't have those. You'll notice that all of the Newman that we get from these books are all something like it's something that isn't related to the artist. We've got the magnate, we've got the revolutionary, we've got a number of different outcomes. Now, if it comes down to it, I have a rough idea in terms of how I can navigate. But it would be nice, again, to have a little bit of intention behind the acts, just because, you know, it's easy enough for me to just sort of say, okay, it was revealed to me in a dream and I'm going to go get this secret item and so on and so forth. But it'd be a little more fun to just sort of motivate it through some of the things that we read inside the book. I think that's some of the greatest reward, and I wind up learning more doing that as well. So next week, again, we're going to be focusing on reading the books. We'll be checking out the different paintings. If we get an interesting book from Oriflammes, I'll definitely want to pick that up. And our next big milestone we're looking for is winter, where we will hopefully get someone who knows Hyksos. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice weekend. Take care.